Great. Well, thank you everyone for dialing in and coming in. So good to see some folks here. We're going to go ahead and get launched with talking through the program for this year. So just a couple administrative announcements to start, and then we'll get into the application and some changes that we're going through this year. So I'm going to the next slide. So ASI. Just want to put a plug in for ASI. They're here to help. So, we're going to be talking about a number of things throughout the application process, some pointers, best practices. But, ASI is a service that has been, providing support to a number of organizations. So if you have questions, they've certainly been a partner throughout over the years. So just want to put a plug out for them. Go to the next slide. There is a broader Erie County cultural plan that is in the works. As information comes out for that, we'll be sure to share that. But that has some, overarching, more broader kind of goals that over time we'll want to kind of make sure that this application process, folds into that, supports those goals. So more to come on that as more of that comes to fruition. But just want to highlight that as something that's in the works and to keep an eye out for probably by next year, hopefully. So I don't know, we'll see.
And in the summer, public input.
In the summer, we'll be looking for public input for those who couldn't hear. So recap of last year, we had 121 applications that went through the application process and received grants. We had a 6.4% increase for about $8.3 million in grants issued last year. So if we go to the next slide, the funding cycle, this is what we're here to really talk about. So we start with the application process. Key dates on the bottom left there as far as when level 1 and 2 applications are due. So depending on the size of the organization and the application, that's going to drive the type of level for the application process. So we start with the application release process. That'll happen in February. And then we go through a compilation process where those get filtered through. We have an application review then. That's done by Department of Environment and Planning staff as well as our board, which we'll go through on the next slide. But we have about a month and a half or so, I'd say, that we go through an evaluation process. And through that, we have funding recommendations that is compiled by the board with assistance from staff, well, really, principally the staff. We have a recommendation that is then provided to the county executive who reviews that and puts it into their funding plan or their budget plan. And then that goes to county legislature for review and approval. That eventually becomes the adopted budget, and that's where the funding will then come from. So that's kind of a high level on the process. A few more details here on the slides, but this whole process takes place over a few months as far as application reviews and follow through. What I would highlight is while we're going through the application review process, the individuals who are reviewing the application, they may have follow-up questions. So to the extent that there are some additional things that we need to either, if we find that there's any missing information or if there is things that we're just looking to get more clarification on, that all comes through that application review kind of phase of the process. Go next slide. This is our board and the staff from Department of Environment and Planning that's involved in the process. So we take a lot of care to ensure that the board has competencies that are wide-ranging and relevant to the application process. So folks with cultural backgrounds, legal backgrounds, financial backgrounds, grant seeking and application processes. So try to have a diverse group of competencies and representation from a geographic perspective as well too. Oh, you're right. I forgot to introduce myself. Matt Clohessy. I'm currently the chair of the of the board here. So just recently came into seat in January here. So couple things that I want to highlight on the application review process. So we principally look at the health of the organization on a couple of different dimensions. So we take a look at the governance documents and bylaws for the organization. We take a look at programming. What is the outreach? How many county residents are served? And other things of that nature from a impact standpoint. Take a look at fiscal health of the organization, just to ensure that there's no areas of concern from a going concern standpoint. And really want to see that there is a representative service to the county population. So look to ensure that there's diversity on the board, on the applicants who are seeking grants. Want to see that there's diversity on key vendors and staff. So just want to make sure that we have representativeness on that reflects the county staff or county population. Sorry. At the end of the review process, we have a feedback process. So we compile letters that will highlight areas of strength and areas of constructive recommendations for improvement. And so those letters go out just to help applicants understand what went well, what areas can improve, so that next year on the grant application process, they can seek to strengthen some of those areas where we have some recommendations. We go through a scoring process across a number of dimensions. So I mentioned fiscal health, governance documents, services programming, management and planning. So we take a look at this from a fairly quantitative standpoint, and then we also have some qualitative overlays on that. So essentially, there's a range of areas across these dimensions that we assess. To the extent that there are weaknesses or a lack of certain key areas that will impact some of the quantitative areas that we have here for the scoring. And then at the end of the process, we have some qualitative areas where we can reflect areas that are not necessarily represented within kind of the pure scoring process. So we have a pretty standardized and rigorous process through the evaluation that goes through the review process. A couple tips, best practices. So the same individual will be reviewing the application from end to end. So repetitiveness, we want to make sure that we're putting the right information in the right spot. We don't need to put it in the same types of information in multiple spots. Consistency is key. So where we kind of see, what's the message, what's the story, is that consistent throughout the application? So that's a key area. From a forward-looking standpoint, we really want to kind of understand the vision of the applicants, right? So what do they see, key areas of success for 2025? What are they striving for? What is the funding going to be ultimately used for? From a document standpoint, always want to make sure we are looking at final documents, not draft documents. And a couple other areas we want to highlight here, looking at proactiveness for diversification of board members, diversification of funding sources. So we want to ensure that there's not over-reliance on government or a single source of funding. So really want to make sure that there's revenue generation to support applicants through the process as well too. I think those are the highlights on this slide. A couple changes for 2025. So we had a couple clarification areas, a couple things to just make the quality of life of the application process a little easier. So made some adjustments on the input side to just kind of streamline things a little bit. But what I do want to kind of highlight from some of these bullets are that funding that is used for the request, we want to ensure that these are used to generate original programming or original content. So we don't want to see a pass-through type entity where the grant money is being provided to then redistribute to others. So we want to highlight that area. Char 500 filings, so that's something that we have recently started requesting. So just want to make sure that everyone is focused on providing that as well too. A new area, board of director competencies. So this is not something that we're necessarily including from that scoring standpoint that we referred to earlier, but wanted to have insight on what type of technical backgrounds are provided by the board. So that I think gives a good lens to the governance oversight that organizations have as well too. And then the other areas here are more of the kind of clarifications and quality of life updates. So structure of the request, so there's 3 levels. So if a request is less than 50,000, it would be for a level 1. If the grant request is between 50 and 200,000, it's a level 2, and greater than 200,000, it's a level 3. The different levels have different requirements through the application. So level 1, there's less questions, less things to provide. Level 3, that has the most amount of things to provide. So we try to scale the amount of information that we're asking for along with the size of the application. And generally, we encourage folks to not make the request more than 20% of their operating budget or their actual expenses from the prior year. We have seen applicants who have put in for greater than 20%, and that is allowable if there's something big or large that they're pursuing. That would just notch up the level of application that the applicant would need to provide. So if it is a request that would otherwise qualify as, say, a level 1 application, but the request is greater than 20%, that would then drive a level 2 application to be filled out by the applicant. Eligibility, so want to ensure that the applicant is residing within Erie County. So these are Erie County taxpayer funds, so we want to ensure we're supporting Erie County businesses and not-for-profits. It must be a 501c3 organization, tax exempt status for at least 1 year. It must be registered with the New York State Charities Bureau. So we will ask for, we've asked for the Char 500. We want to be able to see through IRS filings that that is consistent, that it's a 501c3 organization. And we are looking for at least one of the descriptions from a cultural organization. Primary mission of the organization. So we have the organization requirements bulleted out on the slide here. Essentially, we're looking for organizations that are providing arts and cultural type services to the county residents. We talked a little bit about the different requirements for level 1, 2, and 3 applications. So those are bulleted out or put a little bit more detailed here. So I'll just highlight this as a reference point. We don't need to kind of talk through all of these right at this point in time. But as I mentioned earlier, more documents, more requirements for higher level applications. Applicable to all levels. So, pardon? Okay, so I think we talked through most of these, right? Yep. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And yeah, more detail on the application attachments. So there are, for those who are new to the process, there's a web form where the information is going to be requested. Mary Ellie is going to go through a demo of this. But then there are attachments that we request as well too. So I think we'll see that through the demo. Yep. So financial statements, want to talk through that. So there are different types of services that one can get from a certified public accountant. And so depending on the size of the organization, that's going to drive the type of service that you're getting for that financial statement. So if it's an operating budget under 250,000, that could be management prepared. It can be a compiled statement by a CPA or accounting firm. Between 250 and 1 million, it would need to be a review. So there's a difference between a compilation, a review, and an audit, which is what we require for those over $1 million. So essentially, there are different sets of requirements that the CPA firm would need to do to provide those types of opinions. It's a different type of engagement. So just want to highlight that. Excuse me. It'll say right on the statement that you receive from your certified public accountant. So it'll say right on the cover letter whether it was a compilation, a review, or an audit. So it should be right in that document that you receive. Yeah, so there's a standardized set of statements that'll come with your financials. So you'll see one that's a balance sheet, one that's an income statement, one statement of cash flows. They'll have different names depending on the type of organization. If it's a not-for-profit, they're labeled a little bit differently, but essentially different strikes of your financials. Okay. Yep, bylaws, conflict of interest documents. So, these are all kind of parts of the attachments. Some of these will not be applicable to all levels. So a strategic plan, for example, would not be applicable to a level 1 organization. And then the additional attachments, that's for anything else that you want to provide to just tell us your story, to highlight certain programming. So it's always good to kind of, you have an opportunity to tell us a little bit more, showcase some things. So it's always helpful to attach more things just to kind of help your application. That I'll hand it over for our live demo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
1 second, folks, while I set up. So in order to do the live demo, I am going to stop that share and share my overall screen. Okay. Let's close this. One moment. I want to make sure everyone in the audience in person can also see the. Okay. Can also see what I'm doing. Bree, does it look good over there? Like what's being displayed? Are you seeing the same screen in there?
I'm still seeing you on.
Okay, 1 second. Share the screen. Now it's working, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this is. Oh, I forgot to bring my. Hopefully I can log in. If I can't remember my password, we're gonna have to go through a reset password. Okay. So my name is Maria Ortiz. I'm Erie County Department of Environment and Planning Senior Planner. I manage the kind of day-to-day of the Cultural Funding Program, and I'm going to walk you through how to do the application, which is completely online, and all the attachments are PDFs that you would upload. So you always need to go to erie.gov/cultural. You can ignore that 3, just erie.gov/cultural will bring you to this page, and this is where you want to be. You can log in on the top left. And, oh, I'm already logged in, but it would have asked for my username, not your email. Put in the username, which would have been assigned to you, and your password. Actually, let me log out so we can see it. username. So for the organizations, that's usually the acronym for your organization. And then that's the right password. Yes, I remember my password. And when you log in, you'll see this screen. If you need to edit your, to change your password, you go to this edit tab, go right in, you can put in the new password and confirm and save at the bottom down here. It'll save it. You don't actually have to put in your current password. And then your submissions. This is where you would go and see what you have from prior years. A note that this is the date that it was created, not necessarily the date that it was submitted, and it doesn't mean that it wasn't updated recently. So some of you might have one that has a 2021 date, and that's fine because you can keep updating the same application and resubmitting it. Okay. All right. Yes, question from the audience. Okay, good question. Sorry. If you don't have a username, shoot. If you don't have an account yet because you are a new applicant, you would go to, let me move this out of my way. Let me see if I remember. erie.gov/, okay, let's see if I remember the exact one. It's either account request or cultural account request. Okay, yeah. So erie.gov/cultural/account request will bring you to this page. And then you would provide your organization name, confirm that you meet the requirements, and the contact person's name and address, and submit. I get an email and I will set up the account and email you. It'll email you back actually from the website. It'll email you. If you're not sure if you meet the program definition, there's a link there to review that. And I believe you can also go, if you forget the URL, you go to erie.gov/cultural, how to apply, and then you can go to this portion to get back to that page. Okay, then you're able to go in. So if you are a new applicant, you won't have this screen. This will be blank. You would just go to application. Usually you can close this if you don't need it. Go to application here and click this. I'm going to open it in a separate tab for this instance. There's usually this bar at the bottom will give you useful information, especially if something seems to not be working. And then, so that's for new applicants. You would start from here, from this page. If you are a prior applicant, let me go back to my account, submissions. Let me pick this one. It'll show you this, which is your prior application. I believe I did this one yesterday during our walkthrough. Can I hide this? Okay. So if you want a copy of your prior application, this is where you would get it. You would just go to print or save as and do a PDF, save as PDF, for example. And this is basically the same thing we see when we download it for the board on our end. And that's how you get a copy for yourself. If you're not sure about when you submitted it, etc., this submission information right here. So once I edit it, it'll show the last date changed as well. You would go into edit, and it kind of looks the same. It walks you through. So with a new application, there will also be another button here that says Save Draft. Aha, like this. This is for new applicants. For prior applicants, it only shows next. So you would have to go all the way to the end, which there's 25 total pages, but that's only for level 3. Everyone else has a lot less pages, or less content on each page as well. You would have to go one by one to the end and then save your updates so that you can work on your application before you actually have to be on the website to submit it. You would go to application, and there is application question docs. And those are Word doc documents that you can download according to the level you want. And you can work on that on your computer. You can print it out and write it out if you wanted to. Whoa, lost forever. I guess I have to download it fresh. There we go. So I put this into a table form it shows 11 pages, but a lot of it is like this. Like this is your attachment A. You don't need to write anything here. This is just to let you know the requirements for that attachment as you're gathering your documents and working on your questions. So you can do that, and once you're all done with that, you can go into your application and copy paste it all in, edit as needed, and save. Especially for so it's good for a new applicant, but especially helpful for a prior applicant because you can't save till the end if you're a prior applicant. Okay. So page 2, so page 1 was all frequently asked questions, common errors, that sort of thing. Please review it on your own time when you're going to get into it. And then it's all basic information about the organization. We're going to do this as if we were a prior applicant, not a new applicant, just so you can see more of the questions. Some of them won't apply to new applicants, and I'll try to make sure to mention which ones those are. I want to make sure that you put in 2 different contact people. Sometimes I would get like the person preparing the application also happened to be the board chair or the executive director, and then I wouldn't have someone else to contact if something was wrong. Make sure you have more than one contact. If you have a CEO, executive director, manager in addition or separately from the person preparing the application or the board chair or president, please list them here. And then we do next. If something's not filled out, it'll prevent you from advancing. That only happens on the first 2 pages because or the first 3 pages, sorry, because I do need to know that information before you can continue on with the application. We ask if you're acknowledging contract or marketing, acknowledging Erie County funded in your marketing per the contract. And we copy pasted it in there to remind you, just in case you were confused. And here's where attachment A would go in. So if you have an old one, for example, this one already says 2025, but that's because I did this one last night. If you will have something in there, it'll probably say 2024. Don't allow yourself to be confused. I know we're a year ahead. Go ahead and look for your attachment for 2025 and open. So one thing I try to remind everyone, and it's also listed in the new resources document I'll show you in a minute, to save your files wherever the thing opens first. So mine is automatically opening to the desktop right now, and that's why I labeled everything and saved it to that folder, because it's just much easier to have it all laid out there if you can get it to there. Also, for new applicants, you're going to label your attachments, the acronym that we assigned you, dot the letter for the attachment, dot the year you're applying for, not the current year. And that's all also listed in the as you go along. It'll be listed to remind you how to label those. If you are a prior applicant, you'll have this question about how are you responding to feedback that we will send you. And then the funding information. Here we added a couple headers so it's a little easier to see what year we're asking you for, and we clarified which year is the prior FY and which one's the most recently completed FY, because there was some confusion on those. We clarified all of them, but just in case these were the most important, or the most confusion is where we saw that. We're also asking you to let us know where that number came from. So what document are you using the 2023 actual expenses from? Because sometimes your 990 won't match the budget for the same year, and those won't match the financial statements for the same year. So we want to know which number are you using? And then we also added this question asking you to tell us what the grant was and compared to your expenses for the same year, because as we saw, we're going to ask you to request no more than 20% of your 2023 actual expenses for 2025. So obviously those aren't quite a match. So we're asking so we can know how much of a percentage did it actually turn out to be. How much you got in 2024 awarded, and then your request for 2025, and then you put in your level. If you do 1, it'll automatically cut out a bunch of questions, same with 2, even full pages, but we're going to go through level 3 just so we can see all the questions. Okay. This is another, not exactly an addition. We did ask, how did you use the 2023 or the prior year grant? But now we want you to give us an expenses list, basically. How did you spend it? Not just narrative, but a list sort of like this, according to what up to but not exceeding the grant amount, preferably. And then how do you plan to use the 2025 funding? And please provide a budget for the grant amount requested, and that is new. Because we're asking for it in the narrative, it doesn't need to be extensive. And when the contract gets to you the next year, if you're awarded funding, it doesn't have to be exactly that. All the funds need to, be for eligible expenses, but otherwise they don't need to be exactly. So we would ask you to provide your best estimate at this point, because we know we're kind of early for 2025. But we're not going to deny you funding later if it doesn't match in your contract or something. You can update it at that point as needed. We ask about your mission statement. Please just copy paste it. Don't kind of elaborate on it or add anything to it. And how do you measure impact and success? These questions are from prior years. Most of them will tell you the word limit. So some of your tax identification, the year you became a 501c3, when you filed your charity of 500, if you have an accumulated operating surplus or deficit. This question is a level 3. Explain what you're going to do about it. Excuse me. And the capital campaign and endowment information is also level 3. See, once you indicate whether yes or no, if you have it, or an endowment, if you're planning to do a capital campaign or endowment campaign, it pops out a bunch more questions related to that. And again, that's last part is a level 3 question. Then we ask you to upload your financial documents. We copy the same information that was in the presentation, which is going to be available on the website, and the whole recording from tonight and yesterday night, last night, will be on the Erie County YouTube page. So you can go through this whole thing again if you need to, and especially for any questions and stuff like that. And we specify the changes that were that New York State made, so before or after 2021. So hopefully everyone is at this point now, and no one's submitting anything older than 21, hopefully. And then you can upload your files. Again, choose file. This is attachment B, and just upload it right there. And this is, you don't have to create a special report for us. This is whatever New York State and whatever other laws require to have, you can submit that. Your financial worksheet attachment, however, is a form that we ask you to fill out on our end. Where you find that form, I believe this one's an actual direct link. Let me see. This one always pops open. You go to the application attachments and scroll to the financial worksheet, level 1, level 2, level 3. Let's download 1 and 3 so we can see the difference. So level 1 is very simple. If it will open. Just this very basic information, just a summary for the past couple years and last 2 years, the budget for this year, what you're at by the point you submit or prepare this document, and next FY's budget. Please make sure to put in your name here, because we may print it out and then I don't have the file name to figure out who it belongs to. Make sure you put that in there. And then let me show you the level 3 just for information purposes. So you can see what we mean about like the extent of the questions. Most everyone has the same attachments, number of attachments, but the content of the attachments can vary significantly from level 1 to level 3. Much longer budget information in here. Okay, we'll close those. Remember to save that as a PDF. If you try to upload it as an Excel, it won't save. It'll kick it off. So make sure to save that as a PDF. If you have questions on how to do that, Bree put together a file that is under resources. And briefings, trainings, resources, technology guide. Let's open that. And it looks like this. So maybe you download this and keep it handy so that you can use these quick links as you need it. Talk about Excel, basic Excel and Google Sheets type stuff. organizing files, digitizing, how to create a PDF with a couple different options, or combining files into a single PDF. All this information is now in a handy dandy guide on the website. Oh, attachment D is your tax filing. Sorry, let's go previous. And if you're a new applicant, you're able to save on each page, so you can save as you go. The website will save your contents as you go, so you won't lose page 1 when you're on page 25 and you hit submit. But if you leave or if it crashes, then you will lose that information. As long as it's all working, it saves. That's why I do recommend for prior applicants to go over the Word doc first. Yep, ensure your CHAR 500 is included. And your 990 is signed and has been submitted. It is not a draft. Yes, a question from the audience. Yeah.
Organization's very,
Mm-hmm.
very small. Found the postcard.
Yep.
Charity.
Yep. So the question is, what is the CHAR 500, basically, right? Yep. So the CHAR 500 is the annual reporting to the New York State Charities Bureau. There might be an information I knew and now I can't recall. There might be a minimum amount you have to have in receipts, revenues, etc., before you have to file it annually. But you should be registered with the New York State Charities Bureau, unless you're exempt because you're through the Board of Education or something like that. I think that's the one I see most commonly. I can get back to you more specifically. If you're doing the postcard, the 990N, then you're probably not going to an accountant for your documents. Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing we want to make sure organizations stay on top of, all these kind of like legal and financial requirements that are just like, okay, you got to know what question to ask to even realize it's a thing. But I can follow up with you, let you know. So we hit next. We have financial essays. These are our level 3 question. They have not changed from last year. We do know there's been some changes in the foundations landscape in Erie County and the region. So that question is particularly relevant on changes, financial changes coming up or expected. So for level 1, in the bylaws, conflict of interest policy, and whistleblower pages, we're only asking for the date of last review and the most recent date of adoption, and I explain the difference there. For 2 and 3, we ask you to identify these sections or these components of your bylaws and other policy documents where we can find them in the document. So where in your document is composition and duties of the audit committee listed? So you might say it's page 3, you might say it's section 5, whatever it may be. You don't have to write it out like the whole word narrative of it. Just tell us where to find it. And if, for example, you don't have an audit committee because you don't need an audit because your revenues are under $1 million, then you can say it does not apply. Just make sure you understand why it does not apply. And if you do have an audit committee, make sure you're following the rules for audit committees. Again, with the conflict of interest policy, level 1 is just the first 2 questions. All others tell us where we can find these sections, and these are copy pasted from the New York State nonprofit corporation law. So it's not, some of them are best practices, but for the conflict of interest policy and the whistleblower, it's mostly taken directly from the law. And again, with the whistleblower. If you do have questions about those, on our resource page, under definitions and descriptions, we have copied the law into our website in a way that hopefully makes it easier to read than when you Google it, because it has like formatting. So it's here. So also, when you see your feedback letters, it might say something like MPC section 715 or 712, etc. This is what we're talking about, the nonprofit corporation law sections that apply to kind of your organization at that level. I'm going to open this one as well. So 715A, 715B, and you can jump to that section and see what we're telling you is missing from your document. Okay, not that one, this one. We ask you to upload those documents. So you talk to us, you tell us about them, and then you upload the actual file. Label them all correctly, please. And then we get into the board of directors. So this board of directors details with year elected, year term ends. Sorry, that's level 3 question. And please count year elected and year term ends if that's consecutive. So if they did take a break, don't count. If they were originally elected in 1980, don't count 1980 unless they haven't taken a break off the board since then or whatever. Information about your number for dependent directors and conflict of interest disclosure forms. Oh, one thing about the conflict of interest policy attachment before I forget. We need the policy, a blank disclosure form, and then either the full disclosure forms for your board members and key persons, or at least just like the signature page that shows, yeah, this person and this person and this person, all these people actually filled out their disclosure form. That is required by New York State, and we think it's a best practice to make sure you know which of your board members are independent and which are interested directors. And if you have an audit committee, it's especially important that you know who your independent directors are, because your interested directors cannot be on your audit committee. Board demographics is a question for all levels. A clarification here, please use whole numbers, no fractions, no percentages, etc. You're going to have a higher number, well, maybe the numbers are not going to add up exactly. You have 10 board members, but for example, it may end up being more numbers because your board members have a gender or sex and also an ethnicity or race. So I would put 1 for female for myself, and I would also put 1 under Hispanic for myself, just to keep it simple here. And we know this is not, it's not all encompassing. These are very simplistic ways of looking at things. So if it's none of the above, feel free to put it in here. And further down, we ask for additional information, and you can expand on that there. Now, this is the new competencies table that that Matt mentioned. Please just look at the competency and let us know which board members kind of fulfill that skill knowledge base. Enlist their names. These are level 2 or 3 questions. A lot of the times we ask that you list these committees of the board and committees of the corporation so that we're all clear on the amount of influence they have on the board, how binding they are on the actions, and sometimes they're a little odd. For example, your audit committee is usually a committee of the board, not a committee of the corporation, unless you're not actually required to have an audit committee. We ask about board self-evaluation for level 3 question again. And then we ask about your workforce, both your unpaid workforce, your volunteers, and your paid workforce, if you have one. This previous FY actual, current budget, and current FY to date, we don't mean dollar amounts, like in your budget to pay folks. We mean people, number of people that you were expected to hire or have helping your organization this year. And again, their demographics and leadership versus non-leadership position. And additional detail, you can talk about diversity, you can tell us other stuff about your workforce. Level 3 question is your 5 highest compensated service providers, consultants, etc. Please make sure, and we noted it at the bottom, that you include demographic information for the leadership of those companies. If it's not, a 1099 employee, I guess, or artist or contractor. If it's a big service provider that's led by a board or has a CEO, then please include that information. And then your 5 highest compensated employees / staff, and how you review your CEO, if you have one, or executive director. Again, level 3 questions. Questions about how you manage your organization, non-financial challenges, any expected changes, and how you are demonstrating diversity and inclusion, And if you have a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, please include it here. Those last two, I believe, are for all levels. This page gets skipped completely for level 1 applicants. For level 2, we ask for like the first 3 questions, and then the rest are for level 3. A couple questions for level 2, a bunch more for level 3, and you can attach it here. If your organization has a strategic plan, but you're a level 1, so it doesn't ask you to upload it, you can add it as a attachment Z, and that does usually get you some bonus points. There was a question from the audience.
Jumping back to the diversity question. Do we have
So I understand that you want to respect their privacy or their, I guess if it seems intrusive, I understand. Most either have that information from observation, I suppose, or they have asked. The thing is, if you're not noticing who you're not including, then there might be someone that just doesn't feel welcome in your organization. So we encourage you to look at that information. Maybe you're not prepared to provide it this year, but not knowing that information probably will result in some deductions. If you can, if you do have some information you can provide, feel free to put it in the additional information under those sections. We ask about your services and programs and how that's, serving your mission, reaching your audiences, and then how your organization supports racial, economic, and environmental justice. And we know that these are big issues, and these are arts and cultural organizations. They're not advocacy or political or whatever type organizations. So we understand that, and we would not want to risk any of your 501c3 status or anything like that. But it's not something you should dismiss. You should be aware of it. And if you can do anything about it within your organization's means and mission, then you should. Let us know what you have been able to do, if you have. And whether you evaluate your programs, and that's, I believe, a level 2 or 3 question. This is a level 3 page. We know you guys do so many events. We don't need them to be individually listed. If you have an event that runs once a month, just list, once a month annually, what it is, how many people attended total. Same with weekly events, any classes or workshops, you can leave them as one event instead of listing every incidence of that event. And do not list fundraising events or sponsored type events. It's something that you did yourself for not just fundraising, I guess, but actually put in the program or the benefit to the public, basically. Audience and community. Who did you serve? Do you have attendance records and data, and what are you using for that attendance? Whether it was in person, what's demographics if you have it, and audiences. Again, some of these may be level 2 or 3 instead of all levels, like the last one. Okay, we're on page 21, folks. We're almost done. I believe this is a level, there's a mixed bag here. So some of these questions will pop up for you as a level 1, some as a level 2, and some as a level 3, or all of them as a level 3. And we would just want to know kind of like the profile of your organization amongst other organizations and in different geographical levels, local, regional, national, international, if you have it. What you're most proud of the past year, whether your organization is accredited in some way. And if yes, we'll usually ask the date and any noteworthy comments, any awards or recognition that you've received that obviously we didn't cover that in other areas of the application, do let us know. And recent significant collaborations, please. And then this is basically the last page, additional information, anything we didn't cover elsewhere in the application, which if you're a level 1 applicant, you might have more to say than we actually ask of you. And so you can put that in here either as a narrative or you can attach it here on attachment Z. It can be images, it can be copies of news articles, it can be links to videos of your performances or your services, whatever you may have. Oh, also, if there is something like something changed significantly in your application, it might not look well. For example, I had an application that they were gearing up to do a big campaign, but their marketing and fundraising budget had decreased. I'm like, well, I think you might need some funding to do that big market, that big push for funding, getting the word out. So that might have been a good thing for them to give more information on. Once you do that, as a new applicant will not get this page, prior applicants will. So here's the thing, when you submit it, I get an email letting me know that you submitted it. I immediately go onto the website and download your application and your documents and check that they are complete. It's a quick check, so sometimes I miss stuff. But generally that it's not just a blank page. And if it is a blank page, I'll contact you and let you know that it's blank or whatever, or you submitted the bylaws twice or whatever like that. And I like doing that to make sure that your thing is good. But if I'm getting a bunch of emails because you're saving it as you're correcting it, I'm going to ignore it until after the due date because I can't go in to check it every time. So when you're done, completely not gonna even look at it until next year again, done, then hit this box and then hit preview. That'll let me know that yes, you're definitely complete now. And then it gives you this preview page, which is the same one we looked at earlier. And this is where you would do a control print or right click print. So you have a copy for yourself. If there's something you need to edit, you can just hit edit and go back to this page. You have to then, go page by page back over, but at least you can see what's missing. If before you do submit it at the end, I would recommend doing a control find and putting these brackets in so you can see where something might be empty. Nothing should be empty. It should at least say does not apply or whatever. So check this way you'll see all what the blanks are. Yeah, what you didn't fill out that should have been filled out. And then you scroll all the way to the bottom and finally hit save or submit, depending on whether it's a new application or an updated application. So, and then it'll give you this page letting you know that it did go through. And you should receive an email as well. So, any questions at this point? Yes, questions from the audience. Yes, of course.
So are you able to work on it, say, come back, work on it, or does it all have to be done?
The question is whether you can save as you go and come back to it later, or if you have to do it all in one go. So if you're a new applicant, you can save it as you go. On each page, you can save and come back to it later. If you are a prior applicant, you have to go all the way to page 25 to save it, and then you can come back to it later. And wherever you are on the application, you can, well, I guess not from the submitted page, but if you're still working on it, you can go back to any of these. You just have to go one by one, all the way back to the end. Was there a question on the chat?
Just when the deadline is for submission.
So level 1s are due April 17th. Levels 2 and 3 are due the 20, what's 17 plus 7? 24? There you go. Yep. And we have that on, should be right on this page, I think. I tried to put it like everywhere, but of course it's not. There we go. Yep. So the 17th and the 24th. I am available to help you until 4:30 each due date. After that, if it's not working after 4:30, I'm not going to see it till the next day at 8:30, and then it'll be late. So we do encourage you to submit it as soon as you're done. If you can submit it early, that's great. That'll give me and you time to fix any errors. But yeah, I can help you submit up until 4:30 that day, and then they're technically due by midnight. Any other questions? Was there anything else in the chat? I'm gonna stop my screen share for now. Okay, so. Question, when will we receive our letters with feedback? Have they gone out? They have not gone out. We're still editing. I'm hoping to get them out soon though. Definitely in time for you to be able to respond to the question in the application about your feedback. Any other questions? Okay. I'm all set here. If nobody else has questions, we'll call it quits. I'm done. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing your applications. Thank you. And webinar.